Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast, in association with Simcoe Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I want to start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. Now, listen, just a quick thank you to everyone that keeps on listening to this podcast, watching the video if you go to our website or YouTube, wherever you get it from. I really do appreciate it. Now, listen, we all know that most people are subscribed to it because that way you get the notifications whenever a new episode comes through. But most people know that it's Thursday is the day that the podcast comes out all the time. I have no idea why the new one comes out on Thursday. It's something we decided 100 odd episodes ago, and that's when we just sort of stuck to that. Okay, so if you can't remember that, Thursday is when it's coming out. But listen, most people subscribe. Anyway, today I want to be talking about attitude. And actually, there's a phrase that you may have heard before. The phrase is, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Any ideas who first said that? Yeah, some of you guys are well and truly ahead. If you've been on one of our training programs, our Road to Sale training program, you know it was Henry Ford who said that. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Okay. Now, I quite like Henry Ford because he was born on the same day I was born, 30th of July. Well, a few years after I was born, okay? But if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. I want to tell you about the whole story. And there's a bit of a caveat before I say this, because I always wonder how these stories are being embellished in times. I always wonder how much truth is in this. And, you know, if you go and Google this online and you'll see lots of different stories, but it's one of those stories that I wish and I hope it happened just like it is. Now, I've Googled, found a bit of research. I wish we could go back and actually ask Henry Ford, did it actually happen this way? But there's enough evidence that suggests that maybe it did. You see, Henry Ford had huge market share with his Model T Ford. I think, and don't quote me on this one, but he had something like 60, 70% global market share. I mean, that's going some, isn't it? Can you think of any other products that got 60 or 70% market share on their product? I mean, Apple did really well recently, but I'm not sure if they ever got to 60, 70% market share. So they were doing very well. I think, again, that's one of the reasons why he was the world's richest man. And of course, it wasn't him developing the motor car. You've heard the story. It's the production line. Of course, he said things like you can have it in any color except for, any color as long as it's black. Now, I Googled that one this morning before doing this, and apparently that wasn't entirely true either. But anyway, all good stories. But as the fable goes, okay, had huge market share, but Chevrolet come along with a 6-cylinder engine. And you see, the 6-cylinder engine, it was faster, and more importantly, it was smoother than the 4-cylinder that Henry had in his Model T Ford. And the advertising campaign is, hey, have a 6-cylinder for the same price as a 4-cylinder. And it's faster and smoother. And Chevrolet were eating in to their market share. Now, the V8 engine was already around. In fact, Ford had it in his top of the range, I believe it was the Lincoln model. But you see, the V8 engine back then, it was cast in 3 or 4 different pieces. It had to be bolted together, and it wasn't that efficient, okay? So he had this idea that he said, right, what I want is, I want a V8 engine that's nice and easy to produce, because that was his real genius, okay? And as the legend has it, okay, he said, got his engineers together. And he said, you know what, we need this V8 engine, and we need to pour it in one casting. Legend has it, the first engineer said, boss, it can't be done. Okay, you've got a 6-cylinder. Think about the size of the crankshaft. Okay, think about how big the crankshaft has to be. We can't have an inline 8-cylinder engine. It's just going to be far too long. The crankshaft will break, or if we make it strong enough, it's going to snap. And legend has it, he says, hey, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're no use to me. And he fired him. Next engineer said, right, I need you to build me a V8 engine. Why don't we just put the 4 cylinders side by side? Legend has it, the next engineer said, boss, that makes no sense. It's like welding 2 4-cylinder engines together. Think about all the extra weight. Think about the actual chain or the gearing to link the 2 camshafts together. Boss, it can't be done. Again, the legend has it, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're no use to me. And the way I was told the story, the third engineer, he said, okay, well, let's do it in a V format. Okay. And this guy said, boss, it just can't be done. You think about how we pour the molds for these engines. We have a 4-cylinder engine at the moment. It's a sand mold. We have blocks of wood for where the barrels and where the cylinders are going to go, where the piston's going to go up and down in the cylinders. We pour the hot metal inside it, and then we take the cast out. We knock all the sand off. How would you do a V8? Imagine the forces on that V. Imagine how would you cast it? You'd cast one side, then the other side, want to get hot, cold. Can't be done. Anyway, the legend has it, he fired 3 engineers on the spot. And I'm guessing, I love this if it was true, until the 4th guy said, hey, you know what, boss, I think you're onto something. Let's try this. Anyway, history will tell us that Charles Schutz is the guy that was responsible for working out how to do it. Now, what I love about this story, using a bit of Google, it was actually in Thomas Edison's original workshop, because Henry Ford bought Thomas Edison's workshop, took it back to where the factory was, and it was this little, kind of like a skunk works, where Charles Schultz was in there with a few key engineers. Now, at the time, he had a huge engineering department there, the best and most cost-effective in the world. But he made them use old tools. He didn't want them to speak anyone else, because this was all very, very quiet. And of course, they worked out how to produce the V8 engine, cast the block in one piece, okay? And that was the real key to this. And of course, the V8 engine was born. Now, again, I always thought Henry Ford, developed the V8 engine. Well, he actually made the V8 engine affordable. But what I got from that story is, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're probably right. You see, he never gave up. When all his own engineers were saying, you can't do it, he said, yeah, let me show you how. He almost took it as a challenge. So with attitude, I want you to think of, next time someone says to you, it can't be done, why don't you turn around and do what the owner of Amazon did, Jeff, okay? When someone says it can't be done, he might turn around and say, can't be done for now. What's he think about that? Yeah, I'll work out how to do it. Again, Henry Ford, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't. Think about that on all of your attitude, because you know what? In selling cars, in upselling and parts and service department, so much of selling starts between our ears. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Again, I don't know how much that story has been embellished in time, and I'm sure it has, but it's still a great story. Anyway, short one for you this time. You might want to play this in your next sales meeting or your sales team. I'll see you later. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.